Anyway, which brings me to the point at hand. And another topic I want to talk about today, your forever plan. Meaning what you're going to do in the midst of hardships, tricky things, sucky things, great things, life. Something being in your dang inbox. And guess what? There's always something there, even if you clear it out. How are you going to deal with that? What's your always, your sometime, and your never? And I'm going to give you a little homework on that. To do this, it goes along with the if blank happens again, then what the heck am I going to do different? What's my go-to? What's my role playing with myself? Realize that I've been having this relationship with a very special dude for many months now, since the end of October, and I've invested a lot of time and money and gas and in this situation. Some people show up in your life to teach you things. They're not to be there forever. Or maybe you're to teach them something, and that's okay. But being able to feel those emotions and being able to realize people are what they are. Players only love you when they're playing, right? So let them play with someone else. What's the point is this: not holding dark spots in your heart. Because when you do that, sometimes you have to numb that down. Sometimes it makes you forget who the heck you are. Who are you and what do you want? Rise, butterfly. Set up your boundaries and monitor the borders. What is it you want to be? Show up to grow up. Show up to do different. Sometimes those things, when we show up, and especially when we're trying to monitor the borders of our boundaries, it's painful. Because when we implement boundaries and things fall out the side of the boundaries, outside of the markers, then you in fact have to do something about that. And that equals change. Change feels painful. But change is not really painful, it's just different. So allowing things to ebb and flow in your life, to come in, and you release those as things that no longer fit there anymore. And you release those, opening up those spaces in your heart, mind, soul, and spirit, and life for the new beautiful things to come in. What are you replacing your old habits with, your old thoughts, your old patterns? This is one thing I find, that when people try to go raw, there's not a whole lot of way to numb yourself down, unless you're doing things behind the scene. Maybe you're drinking, maybe you're drugging, I don't know what you're doing. But all those things are bondage. Anything that dopes your brain down and your thinking and your vital force is trickery. It's what keeps you from your authentic self, which is what the world deserves to see from you. It's why you're here, to be you and to be free to fly, So how are you going to do that? You're going to start setting up some of these strong boundaries. And I want to show you something, okay? Now, I want to show you some homework that this is something somebody in my last group did, and you can't really see who it is or anything, but she's saying abstinence is best, okay? But if you do have sex, this is just a comparison. Always practice birth control. So what she's saying is, for her, in that situation, abstinence would be perfect. But if she slips into having sex, what's she going to do to protect herself? What's the boundaries? And what's her always is this. But what if sometimes she falls into this? What does that look like? And what does her never look like? Always, sometimes, never. Okay? We're going to get to that in a minute. If you're unable to predict, if you don't think these things ahead, if you're unable to predict how we will act in blank situations, we have a problem. If you're unable to predict how you're going to behave when you go to a Mexican restaurant and you haven't eaten for 9 hours, you got a problem. What's your plan? Did you pack your plan? You got no plan? You've got no protection, right? No plan, no protection. Role playing with yourself, meaning thinking these things out ahead. Situations when you're eating out, maybe your daughter's friend's having a party, You know, maybe you're going to maybe your community pool is opening up this weekend, or your Sunday school class is having a little get together. I don't know, all these things that can trip us up. When we don't decide to do different, we're not going to get different. When we don't decide to show up. But when we do decide, when you decide and you draw a line in the sand, nothing can stop you. That's what I have found. You know, arriving with, here I am. Doing my thing, having it my way every dang day. Not compromising my results or my integrity for anyone else or any situation, because I got a plan. And when I've got a plan, I've got protection, right? Anyway, the choice in the moment is going to be the demise or rise of you in that moment. The choice is yours. You really do have control over this thing. What are the occasional acceptable foods in your non-raw vegan environment? Meaning, my environment in my home supports my lifestyle. The environment outside of my home does not really support that. So what are my choices out there in my non-raw vegan environment? If I go to a veg fest in Charlotte, Asheville, Columbia, guess what is typically there for me to eat? Nothing. You know why? Because they're showing, even if they're showing raw chocolate, they're showing vegan products, which is awesome. But I don't eat faux meat. You know? Nothing. That's not my raw vegan environment. I'm going to plan, and I'm going to show up with my plan, so I have protection. What if you're in a situation where you need numbing? Like this, years in the past, okay, when I used to deal with the continuingly pain of stabbing in my heart of my ex-husband. And now I've noticed that if I don't start to set up some of these boundaries, I could very well wind up with him again, though in a different man. And it's not happening because I'm too strong for that now. But I tend to slip back into those same patterns. But now I got a plan and I've got some protection. You're a dude that wants to date me and you don't line up. You can't really tell about people ahead of time, but you know some facts. You don't line up in these boundaries, we're not talking, because I might like you. Then I got a problem, you see? But this time, I don't need to be numbed. I used to numb myself down back in the day, but now I just can feel it. And I don't even mind. I would rather have a few moments of special and wonderful. A few moments of wonderful than a lifetime of nothing special. Julia Roberts, Still Magnolias, right? And I don't mind. But what if you're in that space where you need numbing? What are you going to do? What's your go-to tool? Do you think you got to have cooked food? What are you going to eat? There's a level in between low-fat raw vegan and 4 vegan pizzas. There's some choices in between, and what are they for you? What provides relief when you need dense comfort food? This is why a lot of times the majority of time, 95%, do I keep my more dense dinner food for the evening, meaning my satiating food, my savory food, my little bit of fat in my food. Because if I don't do that, I have no bring down effect of my zingy thinking. There is no calming effect to my day. And it becomes noisy in my mind, you know? So I look forward to that calming effect of a large salad and a warm soup, though raw, my decadent dressing, those things that I've learned how to plug in. You know, and we talked about that in the first week when you need hearty food. And I believe it was on Wednesday of the first week, if you want to go back and look. But anyway, what's going to provide relief without sabotaging your whole plan? I made y'all some notes. You know, getting caught off guard is what trips you up. Got no plan, you got no protection, right? And it depends on who you are. Like, are you comfortable bringing food? Are you comfortable sitting down to a iceberg lettuce and tomato salad with lemon squeezed on it, knowing that's all they had and you didn't care because you can eat when you leave? And frankly, you ate before you got there. Just like I can go to Little Pig's barbecue with my daddy. I don't mind. I'm not changing his choices, but I'm not eating that. And I bring a little tea bag, and I asked him for hot water over the top of it, and I squeeze lemon in. And if I order a salad, it's going to be nothing. Iceberg lettuce and carrots and tomatoes. And I told him no croutons, and I had to send it back. Then I told him no cheese, had to send it back. Finally got my lettuce, tomato, carrots, and I squeezed the lemon. And it was just to chew. It was really just to make my daddy feel more comfortable because I was going to eat too. But maybe you're not at that. Are you going to bring dressing with you? What are you going to do? Depending on where you are. What mock level are you on? So anyway, underneath this, I'm going to share some videos with you. I want to share this video called Starve the Cravings, which I think will be beneficial for people to watch. The cheat that cheats you, okay? Realize, though, that it's typically about a few minutes before you're on this side of the fence to that side. It's not worth it, my friend. You all joined this program because you wanted to do different and you wanted to get different. And I want you to get that. And you got to show up for you. And there's no failure and success in it as long as you're showing up every day. This all goes back, if blank, then blank. If this happens, the scenario, the situation, the thing, it's going to happen again because it's on your list before you're on this side of the fence to that side. It's not worth it, my friend. You all joined this program because you wanted to do different and you wanted to get different. And I want you to get that. And you got to show up for you. You know? And there's no failure and success in it as long as you're showing up every day. So this all goes back to like if blank, then blank. If this happens, the scenario, the situation, the thing, it's going to happen again because it's on your list of the things that always happen, that have been the demise of you but now no longer will be. You've turned it into the rise of you. You've taken control and you're stronger than those people around you. And I'm stronger than those people around me. You know? I really see patterns in my life where I have ritualistic behaviors in dating that I allow myself to live in a very, very abusive, a very mentally and physically abusive relationship for 20, almost 2 years of my life was I with him. And I see how when I go into those situations now, or I find out those situations are very similar, it feels familiar. But that doesn't mean it feels right. Just because it's your old familiar does not make it right. You know? And we have to learn to love ourselves enough. You know, that situation I lived in for many years, I could take the abuse, but when it turned to the abuse of my daughter too, no more. you know. And I had to start standing up for myself. And I had to start speaking up for myself. Why? For me? No, for my little girl. And when I did, and I started speaking up, that was no longer any good. And then he left me, and he released me to fly free, or I would still be there. We have got to create these boundaries for ourselves. If you want different, you've got to do different. Because anything else doesn't make sense for you, does it? So let me show you something. Yeah, but I also want to talk about how people, you know, they're always using that F word. It seems to be the word in our society today. You know the word? Where we don't have to do different. We just say, I'm it. You know what that word is? I'm fine. I'm fine living in a loveless marriage. I'm fine walking around with 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds on me. I'm fine, you know, just being the martyr for everybody else. I'm fine. Have you ever had somebody say, how are you today? And you say, I'm fine. Are you really? And we're going to talk about that, the I'm fine, the F word. So I want you to see this, and I want you to see, I can't turn this around, but this is an example of what I would like you to map out. I would love it if you show it in our group, okay? This is her always, okay? Always low-fat, raw vegan, okay? That's at home. Now, this is just specific to her, okay? Sometimes, let's say sometimes she's in a dating situation sometimes, or she's this lady is an author and a very prominent figure in her movement, and so she has a lot of engagements and different things. So sometimes she's going to talk about restaurants. Okay, spinach, she's talking about like lightly steamed. Onion, gluten-free bread, which that's very tricky, but for her, she's allowed that in there. Raw vegan fudge. See, this is her, not me. Okay, see, I would never go there. Steamed veggies, plain baked potato, veggie burgers, cashews. That's her sometimes. To me, that could be very slippery right there, okay? Her never out here, we've got pasta, corn chips, cake, soda, diet foods, gluten, rice, candy. You see how she's got rice here, but yet here she's got gluten-free bread. My point in showing you that, it will be specific to you. So if someone posts this in the group, be mindful that that's them, okay? So to me, my sometimes for dinner would be, okay, sometimes when I went to dinner, then I didn't actually eat at my time frame. I sometimes could allow myself to eat a little bit later. You see how that's very different than her sometimes, but I've been doing this a long time. Sometimes, right there, I might be in a mental space where I don't want to eat. So I fasted instead, and that was my sometimes. I don't usually do that, but sometimes I might. I don't eat when I'm in an upset state. You know what I mean? Maybe I want more mental acuity that day. So sometimes I might only have juice right there. But I always work my plan, right? Okay. So what's your never? What I wanted to point out too is never on rice is a trigger food for this lady, okay? But then again, so is gluten-free bread. She's not saying that, but I do. But then again, I'm a long-term, hardcore person looking in at this. She's a beginner. And that's okay. It's where she needs to be. Point is this. You're always. What is your always? Your master plan. Your 100%. Your bullseye. And what is your 90%? And I'd like to change it up a little different than how she did it. So let's say you're on your 90%. And you're in that headspace where you want some hot food. So instead of having your raw soup, you actually blended it beyond 118 degrees. And it was cooked, and it wasn't raw. But it was still all the components you would have eaten raw. Then you had a lot of raw food with it. And that was your sometimes. See what I'm saying? That would be a great tweak for her. And I know this lady very well. And I know that she has some low-grade food addictions playing in, and I see where right there that could be the demise of her for weeks. I know her pretty well. We've worked together for several years. And then she was in one of my groups. But I thought this was colorful, and it's one example of many people in many groups. But I liked how it was colorful, and it showed that. And also showing where she is versus where maybe you are, where I am. Or maybe you are there, and that's okay. So another thing you could do, maybe your sometimes is you take your giant zoodle dish, you've got your greens on your platter, you've got your raw plant fat in your low fat, though adequate amount, in your blender, because you don't want to heat that because it changes the molecular structure, and now it's a frankenfood. So you've got that over there. Then in your wok, you take up all these zoodles, and you take up maybe like 1 pound of mushrooms that you chopped in half. So when they're woked up and they're al dente or even cooked, they're retaining the heat, which is what you're after. You flip that around in your wok. You drain them. You've got some spices on there that smell like cooked food. You squeeze lemon or lime. Then you take that, you drain it, you put over your mammoth amount of greens. Then you pour on your decadent sauce, you put on your seaweed on there, and bam, that's your sometimes. But what's your never? Where are you never going again? You're never eating meat again. Are you a person who's an ethical vegan? You swore that off because you understand now. And now that you know, you don't go there. What's your never? I never eat cooked food. And I haven't in so long, it's not even a thing. My sometimes could be what's another sometimes for me? Maybe sometimes I underate. Maybe one day and I was out somewhere and I didn't have chia seeds. That might be my sometimes. See how that's much different? But it's not optimum for me. Or maybe sometimes maybe I feel like I ate my snack at, say, like, maybe I ate my, hang on. I ate my snack at like a little bit later, like 5 o'clock, okay? But then I wanted to make sure I didn't eat too late, okay? So then I had my dinner at 6, and that fruit was too close at my snack to my dinner. Therefore, that was an abombo combo. That was for poor food combining for me. So that could have been my sometimes. It's not my master game plan. Do y'all see the difference? So I would love to see y'all putting that today, okay? And I would love that. That's your homework. Show up to do different, to be different. So look for my Q&A later today, and I want you to think today about how what I'm going to do today, why I'm up there, and I am, this just goes to show you how you can be the master of your emotions. My heart feels like somebody's taken a dagger and stuck it in there, and I don't even mind. I almost love to feel emotion, whether it's pain or pleasure. It all feels the same to me, because no one and no experience and no circumstance will leave a black spot in my healed heart ever, to infinity and beyond. Today when I'm up there, I will take the clothes into reciprocity, and while she's looking through them, it'll take her a little bit of time, I will drive half a mile back down the road to his place. And I have a few of his jackets and a few things that he's left here, a couple of cups that I don't want to see. And I will take those, and I'll take my key to his place, and I'll unlock that door. I'll lay those in a neat pile on his counter, and I'll put his key right there on top of it. There'll be no note, there'll be no nothing. I'll lock the door behind me, and I'll shut it, and I'll close that chapter in my life. And what I will take with me from that is love. So today, may you clear out black spots. May you love yourself enough to do different and get different. May you love this day because you've never seen it before. See you later.